All right. I feel like I'm going to sell you guys a book at the end of this.
Are you?
I might. Awesome. Hi, everybody. My name is Jamie Murdock, and this presentation is Bridging the Gap Between Red and Blue, version 1.1. Version 1.0 was given given by myself and David Kennedy at DerbyCon something or other. So this has been modified just a little bit.
5, right?
I think it was 5, was it?
I think so.
Sweet. It's a little bit about me. It doesn't really matter that much, but been doing this for 20 years. Presented at a few conferences. I'm a father, a husband, former Marine, and I'm a gamer. And again, this presentation was originally presented with Dave at DerbyCon. So there is like some of his material in here too. So thank you, Dave. Okay, why did we originally give this talk, and why did I decide to give this talk again? Surprising to everybody, breaches are still happening. Large breaches are still happening. I think there was one by some credit check company or something recently, but we still see them. Hackers like money, and it's becoming a big business. It was starting to become a big business when we first gave this presentation. It's becoming an even bigger business. And unless the dynamics of information security actually change, it's going to still happen, and it's going to continue to get worse. Harold.
So is it that hackers like money, or is it criminals like money and are developing hackers?
So the question was, is it that hackers like money, or do criminals like money and are developing hacker skills? The answer is yes. Hackers like money, but more importantly, and I think the point you make is that criminals are developing and have been developing hacking skills, and that's very true. I'm actually going to hit on that a little bit later, mind reader. All right, a little bit of past to present. Large data breaches, all the time. The thing is that each one of these large data breaches, we're failing somewhere. It's not that attackers have gotten that much better. It's not that, we, the good guys, have gotten that much worse. There's some flaw that we have missed somewhere along the way that have allowed these breaches to continue and to proliferate throughout the network once they actually get inside. For an attacker, one time is all you really need to be successful. If we're defending, we have to be right 100% of the time. And of course, that's impossible. So, why are we seeing things like this? Why are we still failing in some things? The ability to detect and to defend against hackers and the environment that's continuously changing is extremely difficult. How many here do any kind of defense, monitoring, detection, log review, anything like that? Yeah, right? How many here read every packet that goes across the wire, looks at every log source? Harold does. I know that. Justin does. Those are weird guys. Most of us don't. And we can't. It's impossible. So we have to rely on tools. We have to rely on our expertise. And when we do these things, it still makes it very hard to detect what's real, what's a real security event, and what's not. Is it good or is it bad? Is it live or Memorex? I see a couple of people who actually got that. That's cool. For those of you who go, what the heck is he talking about? See me later. So methods of attacks. I did have to do a little bit of work to this slide. We're seeing the same attack vectors. Who here knows what SQL injection is? Who here knows what patching is for? Who here knows what social engineering and phishing and all these other things are for? It's the same thing that people have been using since, somebody put a program on a floppy disk that said it was an AIDS test and said, go put this into your computer so you can check. That was actually the first ransomware. That's how it was distributed.
Don't copy that flop.
Too late. I have it on 5 1/4. Now the thing is, though, payloads have changed, and the damage of those payloads that can do, that kind of stuff has changed. So that, when we're talking about seeing more advanced attacks, forget what the news says, because they're going to tell you that, Company X got hacked through a massive advanced, hacking technique, which is called, I sent you an email and you opened it and clicked on the link. But the damage that's spread is increasing, and it is really getting worse. You're seeing everything as a service right now, right? How many of you are aware that there's a really excellent business called ransomware as a service? Very profitable, very easy to do. Botnets as a service. Criminals, instead of hackers, criminals actually take good notes. They take the intellectual property of successful business models and use that in their attacks. I've said this a million times. Customer service for a ransomware as a service, for example, or I want to rent or buy a botnet. Their customer service is better than you're going to get from Microsoft, from Dell, from HP, or anybody else, because they actually really care about their product. Maybe not you, but they need to keep a good reputation. Now, when we first gave this presentation, it was less focused on security. That's not really true anymore. Because of the media attention, because of breaches that affect major name brands, we're actually seeing more focus on security. However, that's good and bad. So the focus we have on security now, it goes to the board, it's in executive management, it's in shareholders. All these people say, wow, this could affect our brand, this could affect our bottom line, our clients, our patients, whoever it is. So we need to find this cool tool, this blinky box, because it says it'll stop ransomware. So I want that $250,000 blinky box and the $10,000 implementation cost. Oh, and your training dollars that you thought you were going to use to go to SANS? No, I'm going to send you to Blinky Box School, because that's more important. Even though there is focus on security, again, it's not the right focus. Last month I was getting my throat cut open. The month before that, I gave a presentation on going back to the old school, which talked about focusing on actual skills, not product. And that's the main thing I mean by this slide here, which I was saying back at DerbyCon 5. We're not putting the right focus on training or in security in general. Now, who feels that they have not been breached? Whatever company, organization you work for, who here feels that they have never been breached and they know they have not been breached? Exactly. Smart people in this room. I've asked the same question before, and I've seen a couple of hands as to whom we're going to talk. Who here feels that confident that a skilled attacker, if they went after you right now, that you would know it? That's okay to be a little confident in that. I mean, depending on the maturity of your security program, I'm not saying that they can't get in. It's just, would you think you could see them? So, hopefully, you might see some sign of them. But more importantly, let's say you see them. How many people think that either you or your department or your organization would know what to do if you found them? How are you going to respond? Anyone feel confident in their own skill set, the company skills, or the department skills of your company? Okay? It's a problem. And it has nothing to do with any individual person or people in this room. It's just a problem we're still seeing in our industry. And unfortunately, it's a problem that we've known we've had for decades. But, the powers that be, yeah, they're starting to see more and more that security is important, and yeah, they're seeing more and more that, the help we've been yelling and screaming for, that it's important. They just don't understand what's important about security, where they should really focus on. So let's shift some dynamics around. We need to focus our defenses against attackers. It's a standard model. It's something that we've always said we need to do. So let's internalize that. This presentation isn't as much about how to get the board or management or whoever else to listen to us. But let's shift how we actually do it internally. So today, we own a lot of stuff, and we're owning more and more stuff every year because new attacks, new technology to stop attacks. I want to buy that because we actually have security dollars now. Then we get more stuff, we blow more stuff up. Then we write reports on how we blew stuff up. It's kind of like Red Team 101, you know. I'm not a pen tester, so you might ask me some pen test questions and I'm going to be like, hey, pen testers, raise your hands, ask that person. But at the end of the day, this is pretty common knowledge industry-wide. You go in, you try to blow something up, you write a report on it. So then, us good guys, we get the report and we say, this is great. This is going to help get me to the point of advancing the maturity of my security program. So we're going to fix all these technical things. You know, we might even do some covert testing, you know, after we pay for our penetration test, just to see how, you know, how well we're doing. Can we blow stuff up in that way? But are we going to do like any kind of standard operating procedure updates? Are we going to do any kind of after action report after our penetration test? Are we going to do any kind of tuning of our technologies, of our SIM, of our east-west traffic monitoring device, of our, you know, I'll protect anything that can ever happen to your host software? No, why would we? You know, that kind of stuff makes sense. We want to focus on, you know, what's the next blinky box? Did I go one too far? Nope, okay, cool. Now, I can't speak to the validity of this slide, if it's actually still true or not, but I wanted to leave it in here, just for a food for thought thing. At least when Dave gave this portion of the presentation a couple years ago, this was true. We don't really technically do pen testing anymore. It's more of a vulnerability scan and write-up. Again, I'm not a pen tester. Some of y'all who might be pen testers in here might disagree with that, and I really hope you are, in general, for your side of the industry. But I will be honest with you, I had to hire a company to do a pen test for a PCI environment, to do you know, just regular PCI pen test, and I got back a vulnerability scan. I said, time out, read PCI, because you can't just give me a vulnerability scan, and they got fired. So, move to the term red team, because it's actually a military term. It's the attackers, it's the bad guys. But again, you can call yourself anything you want. If you're not changing your methods, then it doesn't matter what you call yourself. So from a pen test side, we need to evolve, and I modified Dave's slide here a little bit. So getting domain admin is sexy. Yeah, that's really cool. But if you get domain admin, does that mean you won? Did you get the keys to the kingdom or not? Maybe, maybe not. It all depends. Now, can you have a successful pen test without getting domain admin? Hell yes, you can. If you can get to what really matters to that organization, whether it's credit card numbers, intellectual property, client information, personal information, whatever it is that company holds dear, whatever that data is, that if you get access to that, that is a successful pen test, in my mind. If I hire a company to do a pen test, and they come to me and they say, here's your report, here are all the technical findings, we got domain admin, booyah. I say, wow, that's good to know. This is information I need so I can improve my security program. But did you get to this segment of my network? Did you get this information? No, but I got domain admin. Okay, well, to me, you failed. From a technical perspective, yeah, you did the old school win, so to speak, and got domain admin. But if you can't get my key data, you lost, man. I won. Whoops. Almost missed one, sorry. So where we're going with this, because it is bridging red and blue, right? This is old news. This is something that has been going around for a while. It's leading up to a new color. I'm sure everyone knows what color is coming. However, it's still true. You know, a lot of people have gotten up and talked about it, but you still don't see a lot of it. And I used to work for an MSSP that's based in Hudson, Ohio, and there were a couple people here who worked there. And I know this one gentleman over here, Frank. Frank always knows, or Frank knows that I've always said this. If you want to be good at defense, you have to have at least a good understanding of a hacker's techniques and mentalities. So I usually involve threat intelligence in some way, shape, or form in all my presentations. I was going to take this out, but I actually decided to keep it because it's still true. By proactively utilizing threat intelligence, you can actually increase your monitoring capabilities and decrease your response time. Now, timeout, because I know threat intelligence is a bad word. It's a great buzzword. But true threat intelligence is that. It's actually looking for threats to your company and organization. It's not a list of bad IPs or any of that shit. It's looking for true threats in your organization. They may be technical, they may be physical, they may be harassment, they may be brand reputation. But if you gather this information and you monitor for that, it will help you in increasing your monitoring and actually decreasing your response time. One of the best things you can do with threat intelligence on the technical side, which also still goes beyond just the ones and zeros, the bad IP addresses and things like that, is incorporate that into your content. So whether it's a SIM or whether it's a new tool you got to monitor east-west traffic or any of these other new things out there that say I'm a SIM replacement. Feed this content into it. There's a few, of course I can't remember off the top of my head. There's a few open source tools that you can utilize that will ingest threat intelligence feeds, and you can also create your own in there, and then automatically generate snort signatures and all these other great things. They have SIM plugins. If you ask me after the presentation and hit me a couple of times, I'll probably remember. Just don't hit me in the neck. But you can take this data, you can take this information, and actually utilize it to make your defenses better. Now, going back to the red team, attacks occur, and maybe they're picked up, maybe they're not. The thing is, they can find one flaw. We talked about this briefly before. They can find one flaw, and from there, boom, lateral movement, post exploitation, and then you get further and further down the rabbit hole. Whereas, us blue teamers, we're working on 10 million projects, we're overworked, understaffed, and we can only make one mistake. And then all of a sudden, everything goes to pop. We have to deal with patch management. We have to deal with people whining and complaining because we want them to patch things, which is, why would we want that? And we're trying to monitor everything we can that's going on inside that company. And I actually didn't even put in the whole fun side of governance, risk, and compliance, which we still have to take care of. And usually, in most organizations, that falls in InfoSec. But hey, no, you don't need any more people. You're doing fine. We're not breached. It is not possible for us to stop all the attacks. The red team will always win. And they always do. I mean, if you give them enough time, they will find their way in. Just because you give them a 1 week or a 2-day engagement, if they don't pop you inside that time frame, that doesn't mean that if they continue to go after you, that they wouldn't be able to get you. So, what color is coming next? We've had red and blue. Purple. Somebody said green. Who said green? I was going to change the color to green.
Lavender.
Lavender? I actually don't know what shade this is, but yeah. So let's look at some purple team stuff. And I took out a lot of the other slides we had on purple team because at this point it's kind of been beaten to death. But I just kept the stuff that's actually important. So purple team, right? Red and blue working together, skipping down the hill, running on the beach, and dancing and shit. For the first few of your pen tests, you should not try to keep it from your blue team. You should not try to keep it from the people who are actually doing the monitoring and detection. You should sit down with them and actually kind of do your attack with them. Because this way, they're gonna learn actually what it is that you're doing, why you're doing certain things, and how these attacks work. Because this way, they can actually go back and go, hey, you know what? We picked them up doing, this port scan because they were super, super loud. But while they were doing that super, super loud port scan, and I was running and hopping all the fences trying to figure out what system it was and everything else, they're coming around the side and going low and silent, trying one user at a time with a password that they found somewhere else to see if anyone else had used it. Little tricks like that. Because I'll be honest with you, when I was first starting out in monitoring, if I saw something flashing red, I was focused on that, man. That was the thing I was doing, not looking for the other little seeds that might be falling. So it's important for pen testers, if you have an internal pen test team, to sit down and go over it with your blue team while they're doing it. And if you don't have one and you outsource it, put them right next to the guys who do the monitoring. Because that way it's only going to improve your program and they're going to learn. So there's a lot of noise in any tool. If you have a SIM, if you ever looked at a SIM, you're going to understand there's a lot of noise. Any other SIM replacement technologies that are out there now, same thing. So remove that stuff that you know is noise. Put it into a report. Set up automatic notifications for it. You know that stuff is 9 times out of 10 benign. And yeah, you might mess up that one time. However, you also have to look at the risk. What's the risk of letting Jamie Murdock's password has, I failed to type it in one time in 5 minutes. Do you need an alert on that? Of course not. And I would hope to God that most people don't have that, but little things like that, the risk in that of not investigating that alarm is lower. So there's always an assumption of risk when we're in the blue team side. Properly tune your tools to alert on what's most important to you. Now, if you just rely on reports solely, and you say, you know what, I have a SIM, cool. What do you do for monitoring? Do you have your internal SOC? Do you have people who work there? Do you have an MSSP? No, I get reports every morning, and I come in and I review my reports. Cool story, bro.
Okay. What if I'm 100% report based, but I have awesome reports, and I detect your breach? No more than 24 hours after it happens. Aren't I ahead of everyone else?
So the good question. The question is, what if I have really awesome reports? I mean, I'm adding a little bit to it, but I have better reports than anyone else, and I look at those reports. And 24 hours later, I looked at this report, and I caught your breach. Aren't I ahead of everybody else? Ish. I mean, at least there was some detection there, right? There was some detection. Now, you have a potential attacker who's had 24 hours of access in your system, so you're screwed probably. But it's not. It's above average. So I guess counterpoint would be. Is getting just an email report better than nothing? Yes. However, if you have the capabilities, you have the technology, why wouldn't you automate your alerts instead of your reports? Answer your question.
I just like arguing.
I know you did. So, out of the people here who do monitoring and detection or have anything to do with these kind of tools, or just in your organization that you're aware of, how much of the simple stuff is being blocked? And by simple stuff, I mean, I don't know, egress filtering, blocking, communications between segments, any of these basic little things. Like, well, education awareness we're going to come back to. The little things, up-to-date software. Are we keeping up to date on Flash, by any chance? Any Adobe product ever made in the history of mankind? I mean, all these basic things. Uncategorized sites. Who here has a company that you're aware of that has any kind of web filtering? Okay, a few. So Who knows, or raise your hand if you understand what uncategorized sites mean. Okay, for those of you who don't, an uncategorized site, whenever, let's say I spin up JamieMurdockSucks.com. It probably already exists, but let's say that I just got it. You got it? .net. I'll do .net. Let's say I spin that up. Well, WebSense and all their buddies are going to see it and go, oh, this site is less than 24 hours old, or whatever their threshold happens to be, and say, we don't have a category for this site yet. So it's going over here to our uncategorized sites. Well, at least I'm not familiar with all the different web filtering technologies. I know WebSense. Are they even still relevant, actually, real quick, because I haven't used them forever-ish? Blue Code? Yeah. So I know it's in there, and I know I literally just have to check a box that says don't let people go to this thing or any in this category, but it's not checked. So I can create JamieMurdockSucks.net, and you're all going to go there because, like, yeah, he does. I'm going to see what it says. Oh, I have to run this plugin? Yeah, I'll run the plugin because Jamie Murdock sucks and I want to see what it does. And then boom, I'm hit. Now, obviously, web filtration it's not the end-all be-all, but it's a simple thing we can do. There's no reason for an uncategorized site to be able to be accessed from a corporate environment at any time, with the caveat of a marketing team that spins up a new website that you don't know about, and they don't give you any IPs, and you don't get into the nuance of that, because yes, you can allow by IP, you can do all these other things. But let's just say it's an uncategorized site. And now all of a sudden, you have field reps who are going, WTF, I'm supposed to be going here to show a client this new product and blah, 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 and I can't get there. Well, that's where communication between business units and security comes into play. That's where policies and procedures come into play. But at the end of the day, we look at risk. It's a higher risk to allow these uncategorized sites to be accessed than the ass chewing I'm going to receive. Oh, and I can't believe I almost forgot this one. Least restrictive possible access, i.e., no, I'm sorry, Bob. Just because you're an accounting wizard doesn't mean you get domain, or doesn't mean you get admin to your local machine. I'm sure you can make a hell of a pie chart, but you don't need admin to do that. So let's look at some new things that we can do for detecting attacks. This one I changed a little bit too because technology changes. So niche tool X, lateral movement detection, deception technology, all this other stuff. Those are methods of detecting attacks. I make fun of products, but there are good ones out there, and they do their job. Building a monitoring program, or outsourcing it to an MSSP. That's going to detect some stuff. Purple teaming, that's going to detect stuff too, but that's more not as much on a technical level as a skill set level. Host security software platform X. That one actually used to say antivirus. And threat intelligence. These are all detection capabilities, right? So, what do you think the two least important off this list are? Anyone? Or I'll just make them up. I know it's late and everyone's tired.
Niche tool.
Niche tool X. I heard that. What else? What?
Host security software.
Host security software X. Winner, chicken dinner. If I had to knock two of these off the list because of budget reasons, no one's ever heard that before. Those are the two I would knock out. And I'll tell you exactly why. I would rather have a monitoring program so I can actually know what's going on out there than I would some new tool that's going to require implementation. It's going to require training. There goes my training dollars, so now I can't go to SANS. And then I'm still not going to be an expert on it because the thing just came out a year ago. And Host Security Software X, same thing. You can put a beautiful face on a pig, and it's still going to be a pig. So you can call antivirus some new, cool host-based tool. It's still antivirus with spinners. And threat intelligence, I'd rather know what's going on out there in the wild, in my vertical, and possibly against my own company. So, bringing sexy back. Yeah.
One thing, back to that last slide, the cool thing about that is like sometimes we rely too much on tools, and there's an age-old thing, people, process, technology. You build in people and process, and they're more apt to find things.
Absolutely.
Or question things, right?
So, yeah, the comment was, on this is, the old adage, people, process, technology, and we focus too much on technology, which I 100% agree with. And the funny thing is, for those of you who don't know me, MRK Technologies is a bar, so I work for a company that sells technology. So, remember when I had that one job I liked? So Blue Team, it's not seen as sexy. And again, this was a few years ago. It's a little more sexy now. It's just not, it's still not as sexy. Because if you tell anyone who's not in InfoSec what you do for a living, I wish I would have had that picture, what I see, what everyone sees, all that crap. They're gonna see like hoodie hacker guy or girl. That's what they're gonna see, because our industry still isn't like that mainstream or anything. So they think, oh, you're a hacker. Well, that's why a lot of people still want to go into the red team side of the house. They get to go in, smash things, blow things up, write reports, and leave in a cloud of dust. However, wrong one. And that is true, and I'm not trying to take anything away from the red team. I mean, they're important, and we have to have them. But I will say this, in my personal experience anyway, if you look at a job market, so if you're getting into this or you're trying to figure out what you want to do in information security, at least in my personal experience, I see more jobs on a blue team side than I do on a red team side, as far as job availability. That's just my experience. Take it for what it's worth. You can Google it and find out in real shit, but I'm just telling you what I've seen. This is a giant pet peeve of mine, and it's security awareness. Because if you said, I have $1 million to give you for your security program, to do with what you will, depending on how my security program was in general, I would probably spend a vast majority of it on that stuff, whatever I'm saying back there. I'm tired too. Security awareness. As an example, Diebold, when I worked at Diebold, they had a security awareness week. It was literally like a convention. Keynotes. Mitnick was the keynote speaker one year. They have, like, a lot of us in global risk and security gave presentations to, just the folks. Not even inside security. This was for everybody. And they were recorded. They were translated, because Diebold's a global entity. They were translated and put up on, the websites for everyone to see. That's how much focus that Diebold put into security awareness. And I can honestly say I've never seen anything like that when it comes to security awareness. I was blown away, and I still am, and I haven't been there in forever. But when we look at security awareness, unfortunately, everyone's like, all right, here's your security awareness training, here's the policy on it, or here's a snippet that we found about not getting phished, sign here, see you later. And that's your end user security awareness training. Yeah, it's important for them not to click on stuff, but at the end of the day, they're probably gonna still click on stuff if you just tell them, look for this, and you send them out an email and it says, here's what to look for if you're gonna get phished. Do you think they're gonna keep that email, by the way, and then reference it if they think they're getting phished? Hell no. So it's important that we educate them on that. However, security awareness training shouldn't go past just our end users, and it should also go toward ourselves. If we have management or senior management or a board directive saying we need to improve security awareness training, we should say absolutely right. Does that include me? Because if they say, what do you mean? Well, I need to stay relevant in what I'm doing. All these new threats are coming out, all these new attack vectors, ransomware and blah, 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 blah. Shouldn't you invest some of that money in me for security awareness training as well? I'm going to skip this part. because I didn't actually get to completely finish it. So let's wrap some stuff up. Security is in the news. Still. Security is being discussed in boardrooms. And if you don't believe that's true, believe me, it's true. And you know, honestly, as sad as it is, and maybe it's just because I'm not that happy of a person in general. Well, I'm happy with me. I'm just more of a negative person. Board members can now be financially held responsible for a breach. So all of a sudden, board members going, hey, that security stuff, we should probably look more into that. So we're getting the message there now. You know, whether it's because they are listening to us, CNN, or their bank account offshore, probably because they are board members, you know, the word's getting out there. So that's good, but we still have to get better. Attacks aren't just going to magically stop. I didn't get into this because it's honestly its own little presentation and it's late, and if I started talking GRC, everyone would be asleep. But GRC is important. It really is. The more mature I got into my career, not as a person because I'm not mature at all, the more mature I got in my career, I realized how important GRC really is. Technology isn't the right answer unless we already have a good foundation for a security program. You can't throw technology at a problem and expect it to fix a problem. So I'll leave you with this. Until we train and train hard to prepare ourselves for offensive capabilities, we cannot have an effective defensive countermeasures. At the end of the day, what that means is if you have anything to do on the blue team side, and that's been your whole focus, you need to reevaluate your focus. Because how do you know what to detect if you don't know how the attack's happening? Questions? Frank. His name's not Frank, just by the way. Inside joke. 5, 4.
Find it. Third-party or independent testing firms are open to the concept of sitting with the blue team during a test?
So the question is, do I think that third-party pen testing firms are open to sitting with the blue team during a test? I would say I would hope so. Again, I'm not a pen tester. I would hope so. Of the ones that I know, they would probably say if that's what your scope is, that's cool. Some might not want to because, you know, maybe they have their own in-house toolkit that they don't want anyone to see how they use, or, you know, they have their own exploits and they don't want anyone to know about, which is fair game. But I would actually question any pen test company when you say that I want you to sit with my blue team. I would actually seriously question whether I wanted to use them if they said absolutely not.
No, I think they would probably come back with something like, you know, we're happy to do after action, so that they just walk through the test and everything that we found.
Right.
It will be an additional charge, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
Like money too.
Oh yeah. Well, they're hackers. Hackers like money. Did I pseudo answer your question?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
One more kind of a general statement, like pen tests, I think, like, you know, when you go through pen tests and use tools, right, you press a button and you get a report, it shows what you can find, right? And if you go through a purple team exercise or you sit down with somebody and you show them how, like Doug and I have done this, you show people how things are exploited, they start to question, like, oh, well, can you get to that?
Mm-hmm.
And it starts to show you what they value, right? And really, in any red team exercise, cyber or not, it's getting at something that values to somebody, right?
Yep.
And by going through that purple team exercise, you can focus on what their value is, because that's really what you're trying to change.
Yeah.
You're trying to get them to protect things they value and change that habit, right?
Yeah.
And if you just give them a report, they're going to see 260 things. They're not going to know what value
Right.
is placed on it. So,
Agreed.
yeah.
And one thing I didn't really have in here, one thing I didn't really have in here is I had levels of maturity for a security program, but I didn't want to put it in there yet because I was in the middle of making changes. But one of the things toward the higher end of the maturity spectrum was actually doing hunt team operations. That's actually like going inside your network and looking for evidence of a breach. or in any kind of indicators of compromise of any way, shape, or form, and then actually taking that information and testing it. Or creating your own indicators of compromise, feeding it into your monitoring tools, and then seeing if you can detect them, or replicating attacks, or things like that. You know, that's kind of like more on the advanced side of a security program. But it kind of goes along with what you said about, you know, the in essence, point and click pen test report thing.
Yeah, well, and they're less defensive, right?
Right.
If you're just doing a report and going, here, fix this. Whereas you're saying, here, like, I want to walk through the app and, you know, I want to show you some stuff we found, want to talk with you about it. And they start to guide you towards what they value. They'll start to say, oh, you know, we were thinking about doing that the last release.
Right.
We didn't get to that. How could we defend against that? And they open up, and they're more in line with it.
Yeah, and along those lines, one last thing, and then I'll let Kumar have his question. But there was a global manufacturer that had an incident, and I was involved with it, and it was actually a Chinese APT group. And after it was all said and done, there was recommendations. Here's what you should do, like an after-action report type thing. You have these, you know, holes. Here's how they got in. This is what you need to do. And sat down and explained it, not just threw it in a piece of paper and took it out, like gave a presentation on it. And then a few months later, we got called back because they had fixed none of it. And guess what? It got breached again. So I agree completely with what you're saying. My hope, though, is that the people we have to talk to at a senior executive level and above, the guys and girls who actually make the decisions and give us money, hope they actually listen to what we say, even when it's as shocking as we believe it is. Kumar.
Since the pen test is going to be limited time by your budget, to maximize that time, you disclose the pen tester up front where your goal, where your value is in the organization, so that people are.
So it depends on what your scope is. So when you sit down with the pen test, your third party, the question was when you sit down with your pen tester and you want to do like an open pen test with, or not an open pen test, but you have a limited time frame, a limited budget. You know, do you go ahead and disclose to them where the keys to the kingdom actually lie? A few things on that. So it's going to depend on the scope of, you know, what you can get for your money, in essence, right? It's going to depend on any contractual regulatory compliance you have. On, you know, does this have to be a black box, gray box, or white box test? Outside of that, do you have any input, Doug?
Yeah, it's pretty much that. I would say, from an internal perspective, we're always looking with the scenario in mind. So we're saying we're going after this particular pot of gold scenario, and this one
Right.
from a different perspective. But yeah, it would be defining the scope.
So I have done that before for a PCI test. We literally said, here's the network segment that we need you to go after. Now, the goal, though, the scope of that engagement was, can you get into it? Yes or no? I mean, we're telling you the keys are here. We just want to test the controls in place.
And different types of tests are very tightly defined. PCI is like, you need to know exactly where the article
Right.
is and where the perimeter is. Your job is to try to get in.
Right. Does that answer your question? Ish? Any other questions? And I have a question for you. Who here is going to Musketeers after this? Couple? Ah, it's late and people are still going to Musketeers. Awesome. My next question.
Are you allowed to go to Musketeers?
I am. My next question is, who's going to the Information Security Summit? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know you're going.
It's the first time in like 10 years I'm not going.
Oh.
Because we don't have a table.
Oh, well. That sucks.
NEOISF has a big table.
What? Nah, we'll talk. I'm not that I can do anything about it. I say it like I can do it about it. I can't. All right, cool. Yeah, if you can go, go. If you can't, no. Sucks. But all right, if there's no more questions, I appreciate everybody sitting up here and listening to me flap my gums. Thank you.